Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. And this morning I got a message from one of our subscribers, Ahan. And when I first saw that message, I thought that, okay, who is this guy? And look at the hustle. So then I immediately messaged him and told that, Ahan, if you're okay, can you come onto a podcast and share your experience with our subscribers? And thankfully, Ahan is here with us today. Welcome, Ahan.
Hi, Abhishek. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could make it to your podcast. When I sent this message, I didn't know if you would reply to me, but thank you so much for replying and giving me this opportunity.
No, definitely. And thanks for your time here. And the first thing that I want to ask you is, seriously, did you apply for 1,000 jobs, or is it just like,
Yes,
oh, okay,
I'm not kidding because looking for a full-time job is again a full-time job in itself, I can say.
yeah,
And I was laid off I think on June 2nd, I was laid off. And in the US, we have a fixed period of time with which we can look for a job. So I
yeah,
was on this clock. And I know everyone knows that the job market is pretty bad and rough right now.
yes,
So
yes,
I used to spend close to 3 hours every day.
wow,
I have a whole list of companies, and I can share
hmm,
that if that's helpful for anyone. So I used to open a list of companies. I used to open a set of roles, and each would there would be 10, 15, or 20 roles, for example. And on LinkedIn, I used to keep applying to multiple job roles. But the other thing I did with applying to all these roles was for
hmm,
every company, I used to reach out to at least 30 minimum 30 people on
wow,
LinkedIn. There'll be technical recruiters from that company, directors from that company, and senior managers from that company. I had fixed
wow,
templates. First, for the connection request, I would send out 30 connection requests for one company. And for example, if one day I would apply to, I think, 4 or 5 companies, that would be around 100 plus people. And I
hmm,
had no clue there's a limit on connection requests as well on LinkedIn because I would max that out as well.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So out of those 30 people, approximately 5, 6 people would reply or accept my connection request. And
exactly,
I would send a message to them. Yeah. And out of those 5 people, luckily one or two would get back saying, I can refer you or I can
yes.
help you with something. So it's just a numbers game out there. So 3 months I networked a lot, reached out to multiple people, and that's how I landed my new job as well. So
Yeah,
that was how I
I think you covered a very important point that I keep saying in my podcast or during my, these honest DevOps talks. I want to come back to that, but before that, out of curiosity, I started our discussion with your number of applications. But Ahan, why don't you just introduce about yourself and just share us your
Sure.
experience a bit?
Sure, Abhishek. So, a quick introduction about myself. I'll tell you what I was thinking. I'll tell you about the introduction I used to give in my interviews.
Wow.
So that way, it will be
Yes,
helpful for others if they could pull it off. Because
definitely.
my introduction I took from your mock interview with Bhavya as well. So
Wow.
I'll give a
Yeah.
quick brief. So, firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity. And to talk about myself, I completed my undergrad in Bangalore, India, and started working with IQVIA as a cloud developer. So here I mainly worked on writing manual test scripts to test various features of the applications. And after this, I decided to pursue my master's. So I got my master's in computer science at UTA. And here I worked with this course, which was cloud computing. And I
Wow.
got the opportunity to work with various cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and GCP, and worked with various cloud services they provided. So this is where I realized that I want to incline towards the cloud domain. And after graduating, I got the opportunity to work with Coupa Software as a cloud operations intern. So here I converted to a full time and worked with them for over 2 years. And here I worked as a part of an agile team. And we followed all the scrum ceremonies from the backlog refinement to the sprint retrospectives. And all the work we did was tracked on Jira, and the documentation was on Confluence. And talking about my experience and the work I did with my team, I mainly worked on managing the infrastructure we had set up to host the applications on the cloud platform. So we use Terraform for this. And I
Okay.
also worked on maintaining a CI/CD pipeline where we use GitHub Actions for the continuous integration and we use Argo CD for the continuous deployment. So this would
Wow.
deploy applications onto cloud platforms hosted on EKS. And I worked with AWS on a daily basis. And I also worked on migrating services, mainly the Calico CNI service, from a manifest-based implementation to an operator-based implementation for FedRAMP compliance.
Hmm.
And I also worked on migrating services from ECS to EKS for cost optimization reasons. And most of the Kubernetes clusters we had were being monitored using Prometheus. So I built a detailed Grafana dashboard where I took Prometheus as the data source, and depending on all the flags I'd set, it would send alerts via VictorOps or
Yes.
Splunk to the person on call. And I also participated in on-call rotations where I was the first point of contact for any production issues. So when these issues would arise, I would log into the Kubernetes cluster using kubectl commands, and I would check the pod logs. And depending on what the logs would say, I would troubleshoot accordingly. So this is like a quick introduction about myself. And to break down this introduction, I told you, I mean, because I have 3 years of work experience, I spoke about my education as well. If it's 3 or 4 plus, we can skip that part. And I made sure to speak about things I've complete confidence in, because most of my
Yes.
interviews, after my introduction was done, the interviewers would ask me when I mentioned cost optimization, etc. They would ask me, "How did you do cost optimization? How did it help the team?" So
Yes.
I prefer, and this is a pointer which you gave in one of your videos, saying
Yes.
the introduction is the main content, and that would drive the interview, and that's
Yes.
exactly what happened. So
Yeah.
it was one of your videos that helped me frame this introduction. So thank you.
And genuinely, you have my full marks for the introduction, because I keep saying people that whenever you are giving your introduction, don't hesitate in buying time. That's
True.
something that I keep saying. And many people, right, they have this feeling that I have to complete my introduction in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and that's not true, right? When you are introducing about yourself, that's how interviewer comes to know who actually you are. You know, so
Exactly. Yeah.
even if I am giving my interview, what I usually do is I take enough time and I tell them that this is how I started, and this is how I moved to a different role from there to this, and finally today I'm here at X company and working as XYZ engineer, right?
Hmm.
And then they
Correct.
understand what exactly have you done, right? Without that,
Yeah.
uh, your struggle is not understandable or is not understood by the interviewer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. And I feel that if we take our time to introduce ourselves, they will understand what they can ask us. And if we put out
Yes.
our points correctly, we can expect what they can ask us. So that way
Yes.
it can help us itself. And because I took my time, most of my interviews, even though they were scheduled for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, they went for more than an hour. All my out of my 5 interview rounds with the company I had here, uh, they went for close to an hour, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, because our conversations were just indulged in the technical talks.
Technical
So yeah.
talks. Yeah. Yeah, and I like that, like whatever you mentioned, right? Because you already know about cost optimization, and that is your core strength. So you want interviewer to focus on that. If not, interviewer would
Exactly.
have focused on something else, and probably they feel that you are not the deserving candidate. Very nice.
Exactly.
And now going back to a
Hmm?
very interesting thing, I know that many of the subscribers would also be looking at it. Like, how did you not get demotivated? Because when you keep applying for so many things, right? Probably even I don't have that much in me to apply for so many companies. So how do you keep up yourself every day morning to wake up and apply for the interviews? And when do you get time to prepare when you keep applying? So how do you organize your day? Little bit about that.
Sure. Sure thing. Yeah. So first thing, it was a roller coaster of emotions. These 3 months, there
Yes.
were peak times of happiness. There were peak times of demotivation. There was darkness. Everything. It was, I can say, a roller coaster. So, the at first, I was very clustered. I didn't know what was happening because I was laid off, and that was very unexpected for me. And I had to pick myself up. That did take some time, and I was blessed to have the support system I have around me, my friends, my family, and the contacts I got through my friends, where they all helped me just to stand up.
Yes.
And once I got going, at first I was clustered, so I didn't know how to organize myself. So I was
Hmm.
randomly applying with a very rough resume I had. So
Hmm.
obviously the resume was bad, so I wasn't getting calls at first. And then I started refining my resume, and I made myself a schedule for the day. So one thing I knew is in the mornings around 10 to 12 in the morning, recruiters and people are very active. Up after their morning meetings, they'll have time to actually look at LinkedIn, etc. So
Yes.
that was my target time to actively apply for jobs and reach out to people. So I
Okay.
kept around 10 to 12 or 1 p.m. in the morning to apply to jobs. So I would get up, I think 6 in the morning. 5:36 is when I get up usually. I used to go
Oh
to the
wow.
gym. I used to go to the gym for an hour and a half.
Oh.
But after I got laid off, I couldn't get myself to go to the gym because I was mentally fully clustered and I could not go. So
Yes.
I used to pull myself and at least half an hour a day into fitness, and that would like drive my day. And then come back, apply to companies, and start studying. I would like revise what I've done, and I would look on YouTube for videos. Especially your videos were very helpful because with all the work I've done and all the experience I've had, your videos would give me a finishing touch to have some hands-on experience.
Yes.
So that way, it gave me the finesse I required to actually help me with my interviews. And I would use the internet to get some hands-on experience with various tools, technologies, etc. And
Hmm.
many times, when I would get replies on LinkedIn or when any recruiters would contact me, I would schedule calls immediately. That's the first thing I would tell anyone. Please don't
Okay.
ask for time right now because there are many
Hmm.
people in the market and
Yes.
we might lose out on an opportunity, because that happened to me when I got my first call. And I think this was I forgot, this was Cognizant or Verizon. I'm not quite sure. So the HR asked me for a date for the first call. I
Hmm.
asked her for a week and a half's time, so just so I can prepare. This was literally, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks after getting laid off.
Oh,
So I asked for
okay.
a week's time, and she agreed for a week's time. And I prepared, and a day before my interview, she said, "I'm sorry, we're going with someone else." So that was
Okay.
really demotivating, and that's when I realized I should not ask for time, because there are many people who are very qualified and who are worthy
Yes.
of these roles, including us. So
Yes.
grab the first opportunity you get. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Very nice. No, no, I mean, I
sorry,
wanted to
please
just
continue.
say, no, I just wanted to say that, and that is again a very, very important point. So many times when people even approach me, right,
Uh-huh.
they say that, Abhishek, I did not start, or I haven't started my journey of applying because I don't feel that I am, uh, completely ready to give the interviews. And I
True.
keep telling them that you will be never ready, right?
Exactly
Because
right.
DevOps and cloud is such a huge thing. Tomorrow morning you wake up and you see a different job description, you'll find new things, right? And you
Yeah,
will feel that I'm not ready for it. You
correct.
will understand you are ready or not if you keep giving the interviews. Give 10, 15, 20, and then you'll realize that, okay, now that's okay. I'm already into it. So let me, learn and
Exactly.
get a job. Yeah,
Just jump into the deep end of the pool. That's all.
exactly. Yeah. And okay, so now this is how you used to 10 to 12, you used to
Correct.
apply for that. But when you actually used to go with the theory or practicals, so do you also manage the same thing in the evening of the day, or how do you do that?
I didn't quite get the question.
So when do you learn things? Now
Oh,
10 to
learning.
12,
Yeah.
yeah.
So around 10 to 12 to or 10 to 1, I'll apply. So after applying, the whole day is just for learning. So
Okay.
the first thing I'll do is I'll revise all my concepts I've done. I'll go through all the code I've written, just to make sure that, because once I keep learning a lot, we tend to forget stuff.
Yes.
So the first thing is I keep revising everything I've done just to make sure I remember them and I've
Okay.
understood them better. And the more I revise, I get the concepts better. And I pick up at least one new hands-on project a day,
Hmm.
or a project can go for a week, for example. For example,
Yes.
I tried implementing a Terraform setup, a simple one, and that took me, because I was learning a few new concepts. I forgot
Yes.
many of them, but yeah,
That's
it
okay.
did take me a few days, etc.
Yeah.
But after the 3 hours of applying, the whole day is just for studying.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Ahan, basically we have a lot of our subscribers in the US, and
Okay.
they keep asking me that market in the US is not good now, so we are not getting any calls. I
Yeah.
agree, and I understand their concern, but can you give little bit understanding? If you want, you can hide the company name, but can you just tell us like what is the job description, okay, that you got selected for? Okay,
Hmm.
how many years of experience? And for your number of years experience, how many calls you used to get on a weekly basis?
Sure. So the job offer I got now is from Juniper Networks. It's for an
Okay.
SRE 4 role,
Okay.
and the job description for them was, they required around 5 years of work experience, close to around 5 years of work experience, AWS and GCP work experience, and production environments. Someone who's been on call and who has the experience of working production on calls, and the normal, what do you say, the DevOps
Hmm.
job description, who knows Kubernetes, Terraform, all those tools and technologies. So that
Awesome.
was like a brief. I don't remember the details of the job
No,
description,
that's
but
okay.
that was the rough idea of the job description. And what was the next part of your question?
Yeah, the next one is pretty interesting. How many calls you used to get on a
Oh
weekly
yeah,
basis?
I can
Yeah.
say I barely got a call or two,
Hmm.
because even though I used to apply for multiple job roles, the day I mean, I applied for a job role today. Next day morning, I get up, rejects again. Hundreds of
Okay.
rejects I used to get, and
Okay.
I just got used to it. And I would say the secret to getting callbacks is not just by applying, reaching out to technical recruiters. If not, I'd say reach out to directors of companies, because not many people
Hmm.
reach out to directors, and
Hmm.
because of that, directors when they look at the LinkedIn and when they see messages from us, they'll reply to us. And
Okay.
most of my success ratio has been from directors of various companies.
Wow.
And I got many calls because I reached out to them and they referred me to the recruiting managers. For
Wow.
example,
Okay.
MathWorks, SAP, etc. So all of these, I reached out to directors and they helped me get in touch with technical managers and recruiters. So that's how I got most of my calls, not
Wow.
just by applying. So applying, I'd say, is not going to help because again, the
Hmm.
pool is huge and
Yes.
technical recruiters don't have time to go through all resumes in detail.
Hmm.
So even if you're worthy of it, it's just human. I mean, I wouldn't say error, but it's just that the number of applicants are so much that our resume might skip their eyes, and it's
Definitely.
you can't blame them or us for this. So
Yeah.
we just have to put the extra effort to reach out to other people.
Yeah. So now what I would like to tell the subscribers here, whoever is watching this video at this timestamp, what I want to tell is Rajesh was not successful because he directly reached out to the director, but he found out the unique way, right? So I
True.
think that's very important. Now there are
True.
hundreds of people who are applying for the job, and more or less everyone has the same skill set, right? Now, why is that recruiter has to pick up your profile and only reach out to you? You have to be differentiator, and that's what Rajesh did. So he approached directors, or he might have approached other people, but he made sure that he want to be one of the odds. So he made sure talking
Yeah.
to people, talking to recruiters, facing rejections, and finally get 1 or 2 calls per week. Understand,
Yeah.
this is
One or
very
two
very
calls.
important.
Yeah.
Right? He applied for hundreds of companies but only got 1 or 2. So
Yeah.
many people lack this perseverance, many people lack this hustling. That's the reason why, you know, you get demotivated, or you don't feel like DevOps is going to be my career. So that's what. uh, Thanks for sharing that, Ahan.
Sure.
Okay.
Anytime.
Now, another important thing, and many times people ask me this question, and you must have also seen many people. So, how important was programming for you, right? So, in the interviews, were they asking you to write code, or in the interviews, you were uh, writing some Python script, shell script? Like, how was it?
With my interview process, I didn't have much of programming,
Hmm.
but there were times when they asked me how I would define a script, a
Okay.
Terraform file, or for example, why am I going blank? A Kubernetes service.yaml file, etc.
Okay.
How I would define it. They just asked me verbally,
Structure.
and I would explain it to them. Yeah, structure and what tags or what keywords I would use.
Hmm.
And they asked me kubectl commands as to what type of commands I'd use to extract information, etc.
Okay.
So they didn't ask me to go hands-on coding or programming, but it was more of a verbal communication or verbal
Hmm.
discussion where we spoke about how I would define a script, what I would place where, something like that.
Awesome. Awesome. And
Yeah.
finally, how many interviews, the real interviews, did it take for you to land in this job?
Uh, I mean, with this company, it was 5 rounds, but I gave close to 6 to 8 real interviews.
Real
And
interviews.
all those 6 to 8 interviews, I cleared all the technical rounds, but
Okay.
I was rejected only because they found people with more experience, or the clients were not interested, or they're looking for that role anymore, or the role
Okay.
was closed. So that's how
Oh,
it was.
okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Yeah. But after that, finally you landed, and it's a very good company, that I can tell you.
yeah.
And so here you are going to work as SRE or DevOps engineer.
SRE. I'll be working as an SRE.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you are preparing for the interviews, right? So definitely there will be a lot of unknowns, right? Probably you are
True.
watching my videos or someone's videos. Okay, you get the theory part, and sometimes I do the demos. You will
Hmm.
learn things from the demos, but when you're doing hands-on, you run into a lot of issues, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you might not have your roommates or someone who has experience in DevOps. So how do you tackle that situations when you are completely stuck in the demo that you're doing? How do you unblock yourself?
So there were many times I faced this issue. I would do something to learn hands-on experience of new technology or tool, and I faced issues. My first thing would be to look on YouTube for any solutions,
Hmm.
and I think a few times I didn't find it. So I would reach out on
Yes.
Stack Overflow. I would put out my question on Stack Overflow, and many people would reply to it.
Hmm.
So that's how I would do trial and error to fix my issues. And I'd say these failures are actually wonderful conversation points in interviews. Because
Exactly.
when we face these failures and we talk about them, they'll understand that we actually have hands-on experience. So
Yes.
that was one more pointer where spoke about some failures and I spoke about my Stack Overflow reaching out,
Hmm.
and that kind of helped me as well.
Amazing. That's the reason why
Yeah.
even I do the demos as well. One of the reasons why I don't edit my videos,
Hmm.
I face errors a lot of times. If you watch my demos, right, many a
True.
times even
Yeah,
I
same.
run into some issues, and even I stumble upon when I do the video, right. I think, no, okay, how do I fix it? But I don't edit
Hmm.
it because even you people understand that, I also run into errors. Like
Correct.
nobody is an exception
Correct.
in this case. Everyone will run into errors, and
Hmm.
during that time you have to go to Google, Stack Overflow, ChatGPT, Bard, anything, but you have to make sure that you try to find the solution, and that will help you during the scenario based questions during
Exactly.
interviews, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's
And
how that helped me as well.
also during managerial rounds, if you noticed, right, sometimes people ask you, what is that one challenge you faced and how do you solve it,
Yeah.
right?
So
You need
I can
to,
tell you because this
yeah.
happened to me in one of my managerial rounds.
Hmm.
They asked me one of my most challenging situations, and this happened during my work experience.
Wow.
So when I mentioned my introduction about a migration of Calico CNI from a manifest-based to operator-based implementation, this was in the dev environment itself. But the code change which I did, it caused other services that were depending on Calico CNI to fail.
Hmm.
And even though it was in development environment, many other services were affected. So I had to do an RCA and I had to do some troubleshooting and understand what was wrong. So that was something I spoke about in my interview. And more than what was affected or what technically was affected, I spoke about how it helped me with respect to speaking to people I'd never worked with before, how I could present my
Exactly.
work and how I could document my work. So
Yes.
that was the soft skills surrounding this technical challenge which I faced, which I put out as well. So
Amazing.
those were other things that they were looking for in the interview. So that we
Hmm.
can bring up those points in these scenario-based questions.
Definitely. Even I would do that.
Yeah,
When someone asks me about it, right? I would tell them that on a day-to-day basis, as a DevOps engineer, we run into a lot of issues, right? Because
exactly.
even when I'm writing the same Terraform script that I've been writing for last 10 days,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll discover something new on the 11th day, and that's an error. And I have to Google,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it happens on a day-to-day basis, and no one is an exception to it.
true, very true.
Yeah. So let me tell all the subscribers here is the reason why I do this podcast with Ahan or with the other people is to just motivate you people and to let you all know that only if you hustle, you will get the job, because there are hundreds of DevOps engineers out there in the market, whether it's in India, it's in the US, it's in the Europe. For one job, there are hundreds of people to apply. Now, you will be a differentiator only if you work hard. And that's why today I called Ahan here. And
I'm glad.
yeah, I would like to tell you, Ahan, thank you so much for being here again. And if you want to say anything before we end this call to our subscribers, I'll be more than happy.
Sure, Abhishek. First, again, I'd like to say thank you so much for this opportunity to bring me here. And I am one of your subscribers, and I used to watch your videos and the posts you used to put when people reached out to you saying that they got a job. And
Yes,
I used to watch other podcasts, and that genuinely motivated me. And that helped me to pull myself through and keep going through the grind and hustle to make sure I get where I want to be. And
awesome.
I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the community when I'm saying this. Thank you so much for your content because I have looked for content on the internet and there are multiple channels that are really good, including yours. And one reason why I'd say your content puts it is unique from the others is because you not only speak about the technology or the concept you're explaining, you speak about why it's required, what
Yes,
it does, and then you speak about how it's implemented. That way that way it helped me understand why something is required. So when in the interviews they ask me scenario based questions, they won't directly ask me tell me this concept but tell me what
exactly.
Kubernetes services. They'll ask me tell me a situation where you use this or where there was a challenge you had to face. So once I know the whys and whats, I can easily bring up the technology or the concept and talk about it. So that way your videos helped a lot. So thank you so much
Definitely.
for that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
one
you.
thing I'd like to tell, yeah, and one thing I'd like to tell everyone or anyone who's looking for a job right now is yes, it's very hard. Yes, the market is tough, but
Yes,
pull yourself through and you might have hundreds of rejections or how many ever rejections, but that one yes in the end will turn it around. So it's
Definitely.
all worth it in the end. I'm sure people have read that a lot on the internet, and I also have read that a lot. And I'm like, yeah, people say that and stuff. But when you experience it yourself, uh, again, it's a mixed bag of emotions which you will feel, and that one yes is definitely worth it in the end. So yeah, I think
Thank
that's
you.
all I'd like to say. Thank you so much, Abhishek,
Yeah,
for
finally, one
everything that you've done.
request. Yeah, finally,
Yeah,
one
please.
request. Can you share your resume with us?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, not here. You can send me over the email. And what I'll
Mm-hmm.
do is I'll forward that in the Telegram group, and I'll also post that if required on the YouTube community post. I mean, there is
Okay.
only one reason. You can hide all of your contact details and all
Okay.
your job details and everything. But the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I'm asking for it is after watching this podcast, I'm very sure that many people will be inspired by your journey and they would like to know how did you structure your resume, right?
Okay.
So that's the reason why you can hide all the confidential information and share it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share it to our
Perfect. I'll do that.
subscribers.
Yeah. And one more point I'd like to say is if anyone would like to reach out to me on LinkedIn for any help with anything, or if any I can be of help to them, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and you can
Oh,
put that in the video. It's just Ahan Rajesh. So yeah,
wow. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you again. Okay,
Anytime,
guys.
Abhishek.
Okay, everyone. So that's all we have for today. And we will come up with so many such motivating podcasts in the future. So keep watching our channel. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.